Assalamu alaikum everybody. Bismillah walhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. Praise be to Allah, peace and blessing be upon his messenger, Prophet Muhammad, his family and his companion. We are going to continue with the prophetic family. We are going to continue with the noble family of the Prophet, peace and blessing be upon him. First of all, we have to say that all pictures of the Prophet family, peace and blessing be upon him, are not real photos. We are talking about Hashim ibn Abd Manaf, Amr al-Ula Hashim ibn Abd Manaf, the second grandfather of the Prophet, peace and blessing be upon him. We said that Hashim ibn Abd Manaf procured an edict from the Byzantine Roman Caesar. We talked about Hashim ibn Abd Manaf in the previous lecture, and today we are going to talk about how he established the Elaf, and we talked about how he established the Elaf, and today we are going to see how he managed this great project and what are the results of the Elaf. So we said that Hashim procured an edict from the Byzantine Roman Caesar. He returned from his journey with this edict. He returned from his journey with this edict and passed it over the ruling tribes on the Levant-Makkah road. So he returned from Byzantine. He went personally to Byzantine and he procured an edict from the Caesar, and he came with this Caesar and passed it to all the tribes in the road from the Levant to Mecca, with the offer that the caravan heading to the Levant, he gave them this offer. He said that the caravan heading to the Levant, from Mecca to the Levant, will carry out the trade of these tribes, represented in the surplus of their simple production of dates, leather, and other products without the charge of transportation. And that trade is marketed in the Levant. And then the caravan returned back to them with the full capital in addition to its profits. So he came from his journey and passed with this edict to all the tribes in his way, and he told them that the caravan heading to the Levant will carry all your trades without the charge of transportation and sell it in the Levant, and in coming back the caravan will give you the money, your capital, and also the profit. And in exchange, each tribe had to protect and serve the caravan during its passage in its area of influence. So if this is the caravan going from Mecca to the Levant, the tribes in the way of the caravan, this is the area of the influence of these tribes. So the caravan will take their products and their trade and will sell it, they will carry it without any transportation fee, and they will sell it in the Levant, and on returning back the caravan will give these tribes the full capital and also their profits. And in exchange, this area, these tribes had to protect and serve the caravan during its passage in the area of influence. And if the tribe does not have a trade, it protects the caravan for a fee. If they don't have anything for trade and they don't want trade, so they can protect the caravan and serve the caravan for a fee. This is how Hashim established the Elaf. Now, let's find out how he managed this huge project. Remember Dar al-Nadwa? I talked about Dar al-Nadwa. Who made Dar al-Nadwa? The first town hall in Arabian Peninsula. You know, who made Dar al-Nadwa? Qusay ibn Kilab, right? Qusay ibn Kilab ibn Murrah, the fourth grandfather of the Prophet, peace and blessing be upon him, the one who united Quraysh, the one they call it they united the Quraysh people, and they made Dar al-Nadwa. Remember? So Dar al-Nadwa was the oldest Arab authorization institution and the administrative mind of Quraysh, because they used to meet in Dar al-Nadwa to make any decision. Remember, this is the role of Dar al-Nadwa. I talked about it in the video of Qusay ibn Kilab. We talked about its service and the documentation role. Dar al-Nadwa was the main center for the Elaf project. So Hashim made Dar al-Nadwa as the main center for the Elaf project. In its yard, goods were placed, and from there they were launched. And in Dar al-Nadwa, there were experts who provide advice to the investors and traders to help them. And they were also documenting treaties and contracts. Dr. Victor Sahab said that there were in Mecca houses of money, Bayt al-Mal, like the banks of nowadays. They used to put the money in houses called Bayt al-Mal. It's like banks nowadays. And the tax institution, when someone wants to trade in their land, they have to pay tax. They have to pay this tax. Usually was obscene at that time, but it was considered an acceptable act of capital borrowing and credit. At that time, the merchant was able to pay the money in Mecca. The merchant was able to pay the money in Mecca to buy goods in a distant country like Syria, like Yemen, like India, or to send goods to a distant country like Syria, like Yemen, like Abyssinia. Al-Tabari mentioned the caravans that numbered 1,500 camels. And the number of the merchants and the guides and the guards ranged between 100 and 300 people to protect the caravan. Other researchers mentioned the caravans from 1,500 to 2,500 camels, roaming Iraq, Levant, Yemen, and the Jazirat al-Arab, loaded with domestic goods for Arabian Peninsula, such as wool, clothes, weapons, grain, wine, perfume, etc. Dr. Victor Sahab described this journey that the winter journey caravan departs from Mecca at the beginning of Dhul Qa'dah. So the winter journey departs from Mecca at the beginning of the month of Dhul Qa'dah, and it arrives in Yemen at the end of the month. So it takes 1 month by camel to go from Mecca to Al-Yemen at that time. So it arrives Yemen at the end of the month of Dhul Qa'dah. At the same time, the ships arrived from the Indian Ocean. The ships coming from India with the trade from India arrives across the Indian Ocean to Yemen at the same time. Because the winter monsoon are suitable at that time and suitable for sailing and are about to change. So the Meccans go through the month of Dhul Hijjah to sell their products and imports which they got from the Levant. They sell it in Yemen, like grains. They got these grains from the Levant. Levant is Syria and Jordan. This area was called the Levant. and the Palestine, all this was called the Levant. They got from there, they got the grain to sell it in Yemen. So they sell these grains and these things which they got from Levant, like the grain, like resin, flour, they used to get it from the Levant, sugar and oil from the Levant, and wine, they used to get the wine from Palestine, glass and cotton clothes, and they buy the trade of the East coming with the ships across the Indian Ocean. So here in Yemen, they used to buy all the trade. They got it from Syria and Palestine. They used to buy it here in Yemen, and they used to sell it here in Yemen and buy the trade of the East coming from the India and China across the Indian Ocean by the ships. It comes here to Yemen. They buy all these trades from Al-Yemen, like silk. They used to get silk from Yemen and spice, from India. They got it from India, like silk and spices. And Al-Kindar. Then the Quraysh caravan is heading back to Mecca at the end of Dhul Hijjah. So by the end of month of Dhul Hijjah, the caravan goes back to Mecca loaded with spices, silk, clothes from Yemen, precious stones from Yemen, silver from Yemen, and arrives Mecca at the end of the month of Muharram. Dr. Victor Sahab described what happening in Mecca at that time and says that if the voyage arrived Mecca, Mecca submerged in the noise of compromise, accountability, taking and giving, and the ringing of billions and money exchange between the hands of experienced, knowledgeable people. And the Arabs used Persian gold dinar and Persian and Hamirid silver dirham. As a result of all of this, many expressions entered the Arabic language and became common in daily life, such as the word staying, custody, and umrah. So Quraysh started out two large trade voyages, one in the summer heading to the Levant and the other in the winter to Yemen. And commodities, foreign trades would gather in Mecca. All the commodities and foreign trades gather in Mecca and then go out to its next destination, either to the Levant or to Yemen, to the south or to the north, according to the season. So in winter they go to Yemen, and in summer they go to the Levant, to Syria and Palestine. As well as trading in the usual Arabian markets like Uqaz. The Arabs has also some markets in Arabian Peninsula like Uqaz. Well as trading in the usual Arabian markets like Uqaz market is very common. Ibn Sa'd stated in his book At-Tabaqat that the summer trip was to the Levant and headed to Gaza. He said that the summer trip was to Levant. Levant is this area. All this area is the Levant. Syria, Jordan, and Palestine. All this called the Levant. And it is headed mostly to Gaza. Other researchers said that it reached Turkey. And in the book of Ansab al-Ashraf for Ahmad ibn Yahya al-Baladri, he said that the winter trip was to Yemen, Abyssinia, and Iraq together. He said this is the winter trip. It was not only to Yemen, but it was to Yemen, Abyssinia, and Iraq. And that the summer trip was to Syria alone. Mecca began to become a major center for trade in the Arabian Peninsula. And they used to buy and sell so many things. Among these things, the ebony. Ebony, this is this black wood, very precious wood. These are some of the materials they used to sell and buy during this trade. This is the ebony for precious, this is precious wood for luxury furniture. They got it from Abyssinia. And tools and weapons for metal tools, swords, and accessories. And they got this from Aden, from Yemen, from the Levant, and from Oman and Al-Bahrain. Essence and perfume for religious purposes and makeup. And this they got from Hadramaut and Abyssinia and Ceylon. And silk for making clothes from India and China, and spices for food from India and from Arabia also, and Abyssinia. Cheese, usually from Arabian Peninsula, cheese from the camel and the cattle milk from Arabia, and grain for food, this is from the Levant, the Syria. They got all the grains from the Levant. Gold for making money and accessories from Arabia and Africa, wine from Palestine, for drink from Palestine and Syria, and the henna, beautiful henna for beauty from Al-Yemen. This is the henna, they use it like this from Al-Yemen. What is the results of the Elaf? Let's see the results of the Elaf. The Elaf system represented a vast leap for trade in the Arabian Peninsula. Let's see the results. Number one, it has ensured that goods will not be interrupted due to wars. This is very important, that goods will not be interrupted due to wars or conflicts. As Mecca has become a mediating center between the warring forces. Here is the warring forces, the forces of influence. And Mecca became a mediating center between these warring forces, transferring this trade to that and vice versa, without being affected by political changes. Number two, the tribes controlling the commercial transport routes. The tribes on the way of the route. This is the route from Mecca to Levant, and this is the route from Mecca to Yemen. The tribes here, and this which gave the Elaf, which promised Hashim ibn Abd Manaf to protect the voyage or the caravan during its journey. These tribes adhered to the Elaf that they gave to Hashim. They protect these tribes in the way of the caravan. They protect and serve the caravan because of their interests, and even increased their products and surpluses in order to increase their profit from participating in the convoys. Number three, in addition, the money exchange activity increased due to the circulation of Yemeni, Persian, and Byzantine currencies as a result of the trade of these countries in Mecca. So, as a result of the trade of these countries in Mecca, there is increase in the circulation of Yemeni, Persian, and Byzantine currencies. So the Mecca knows the activity of money changers, and they made a fortune of this. Number four, it also facilitated the movement of trade coming from outside the Arabian Peninsula. Like Egypt, for example, the trade of Egypt came through the Levant, and the trade of Abyssinia came through the Red Sea, and the trade of India through Yemen, and so on. Number four, as a result of this led to increase in the activity of the ports, particularly on the Red Sea, like Yanbu and Jeddah. Here is Yanbu and Jeddah on the Red Sea. It leads to the activity of these ports. Number 6, the Meccans' interest in participating in foreign trade has increased. The Meccans no longer want local trade. They want to participate in foreign trade, and their interest is increased in participating in foreign trade. So this is no longer limited to the wealthy of the country. Rather, the less wealthy group have participated in this trade, whether from their savings or through the interest-based borrowing, which led to an increase in the profit of the money lenders. This increase in the profit of the money lenders. Number 7, some tribes rushed to request the entry of the Elaf or to take advantage of it, even if it was not located on the usual trade route. So the other tribes here, which are not in the way of the trade, this is the way of the trade, either from the Mecca to the Levant or from Mecca to Yemen. The other tribes far away here, they want to get advantage of the Elaf in the hope of gaining profit, and also to benefit from the protection of their convoys during their passage through the Elaf area. Number 8, this leads because these tribes are not in the way of the Elaf and they want to participate. So as a result of this leads to the opening of new roads and new markets. In these circumstances, the influence of Quraysh increased to the extent that the traveler on the head of the convoy, the one who guides the convoy, the leader, was sufficient to say that he was one of the people of the Haram. It was sufficient for him to say that he is one of the Meccan people. Or put a necklace with a piece of the Haram tree in order to be protected from any harassment while on his way. Number 10, finally, the interaction of the tribes and the clans through the Elaf has facilitated the entry of some of them into side alliance to achieve some common benefits. The reader in the ancient Arabs' history realizes that the Elaf was a vast leap, as it began as a project between two parties aiming to serve one tribe in one town. Then it expanded to represent wide commercial network and a large human activity that interacted with economy, politics, social and cultural life in a profound and very influential way. Simply tracing the various aspects of an Arab's life before the Elaf. Remember their lives before the Elaf. Remember I told you, Ibn Abbas said that Quraysh was experiencing the severity of hunger and poverty in some years, in the years of droughts. You know, Arabia is not a cultivating land. So at the years of drought, they experienced the severity of hunger and poverty in some years, and some may die of starvation without asking anyone. The Arabs, they don't ask for food, or they feel ashamed to ask for something, and they may die of starvation without asking anyone. And he said, Ibn Abbas said that when they were very hungry, when the Arabs were very hungry, the man would take his wife and his children and do atifad. What is atifad? This means going to a well-known place where they would hide until they die one by one without asking anyone. Atifad is suicide, to get rid of the pain of hunger. So, comparing all the various aspects of an Arab's life before the Elaf with them after the Elaf, oh wow, wow. This makes us stand on the great impact of this system, which we can describe as the innovator according to the standard of its time. This helped the network of communication that it formed, spreading the culture of Mecca to the entire region. And indeed, Byzantine merchants came to Mecca. Even the Byzantine merchants came to Mecca and paid its masters tax in exchange for their trade in its markets. They want to get benefit of the Elaf. So even the Byzantine merchants came to Mecca and they paid the masters of Mecca tax in exchange for their trade in its markets and obtaining the right to protection and service. Allah in the Holy Quran talked about the Elaf in Surah Quraysh, and we are going to talk about this in a separate video. So the credit for this administrative, commercial, and intellectual revolution is due to Hashim ibn Abd Manaf, who established and managed this great project. And after his death, his brothers followed him and managed this project after his death. References: الرحيق المختوم، السيرة النبوية، إيلاف قريش، البصائر والذخائر، أبي حيان التوحيدي، المحبر، أبي جعفر محمد بن حبيب. Also جمهرة النسب جمهرة النسب هشام ابن محمد السائب الكلبي أبو المنذر. المنمق أخبار قريش محمد بن حبيب البغدادي. تاريخ العرب قبل الإسلام محمد سهيل طقوس. المفصل في تاريخ العرب قبل الإسلام للدكتور جواد علي. جزيرة العرب قبل الإسلام الدكتور برهان الدين دلو. تاريخ قريش الدكتور حسين مؤنس. أطلس تاريخ الإسلام للدكتور حسين مؤنس. Thank you so much.